Good morning. My name is Marie Ortiz, and today I'm going to present to you how to risk assess user requirements to help us identify the scope of a software development project. We are going to accomplish this. First, we're going to review risk management basics. Then we're going to look into the process on how to risk assess user requirements and how it is beneficial for the success of a system implementation. And finally, we're going to look into, once we are able to gather risk data for user requirements, how can we manage that data to our benefit and the benefit of our organization. So let's start with the basics of risk management. First of all, what is risk? What do we mean about risk? Risk is the possibility of problems. It is a problem that has not yet happened. If we were able to look into a crystal ball, we would be able to tell everything that could go wrong in the development of a software system and its implementation. And there are three risk mindsets with respect to risk. The first one is, well, we may believe that it does not exist. For example, we are planning a software development project, but nothing will go wrong. So obviously, I will not take into consideration anything that may go wrong in the project. The second one is that yes, we may believe that things may go wrong, but risk is unavoidable. So I am not going to do anything about it because I know it is going to happen. And the third mindset about risk is yes, risk exists and I'm going to tackle it head on. And actually, this mindset is the one that is the focus of our presentation today. So let's continue by looking at some risk characteristics. The first one is that risk is a family member of status. What do we mean about that? For example, status is the measure of progress towards a goal. When we are in the middle of a software implementation project, we are asked, what is the status? So what they want to know is they want to be able to measure our progress towards the goal of implementing that system. Where does risk come in? Well, risk is the measure of the probability and consequences of not achieving that goal. So risk is the measure of all the things that can go wrong that would not allow us to implement our system successfully. Another risk characteristic is that risk is continuous, that it always exists. What do we mean? Well, normally risk starts the moment we commit to a perceived risk or problem. For example, when do we commit with the implementation of a software system? The moment we decide that yes, we want to bring that system to our organization. We are committing to all of the risks that that computerized system is going to bring to our organization. And when does risk end? Well, it ends when all of the problems, or when some of the problems, actually when all of the problems of the risks that that system brings to our organization happen, or we eliminate the possibilities of that risk, or we retire the system. And while the system is in operation within our organization, is a continuous it's a continuous cycle of the possibilities of risks actually becoming problems. Why then do we take risks? Well, we take risks first because of the rewards we perceive that we would obtain by accepting those risks. And second, because of the losses we perceive we would incur by not addressing those risks. Examples of types of risk are technical risk. For example, the software system does not have the security measures or security functionalities that we thought the supplier told us it had. Managerial problems. For example, we may not have all of the management supports that we need in order to implement our system. Contractual and legal risks. We may have service level agreements with third parties that are supposed to give us a service during the implementation of that system, and while we are in the middle of the project, they may not be complying with those aspects. Financial risks, our budget. We may run out of money before the system has been implemented. Other resources, risk where other departments actually committed to supply resources to help us with the implementation of that system, and then when the project starts, then they cannot provide those people because of other situations within the organization. And finally, personnel risks. We may not have, with some of the people that are going to participate in the implementation of our system, we may not have the skill set necessary to make it successful. So, having understood what risk is, our mindsets about risk, how do we manage risk? Why? Why do we manage risk? Well, we manage risk because we make the commitment to acknowledge and control it. So that is the first aspect of why we manage risk. The second one is because we want to tackle a concern before it becomes a crisis. The third one is because we want to consider the potential impact of each risk item in order to focus on controlling the most severe risk first. And this one is very important. When we think about risk and how we use risk assessments and risk management on user requirements, obviously our requirements are going to have different risk levels. And this is where it comes in. It allows us to consider those levels of risk and how those requirements, how those functionalities of that system are going to impact our organization and how to control them. The other reason why we want to manage risk is to collect risk assessment history to help projects avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. This is extremely important. And what actually it also means is that you can use the risk assessment data for metrics to actually measure how you are progressing in your system implementations avoiding risks. Or you can use that data as history so that as you start other projects, you look at your history of risk so that you try to avoid previous problems, and now you can implement your systems more successfully. We also manage risk because of user requirements, because user requirements provide the agreement between customer and supplier on the needed features and functions of the system. What does that mean? Our user requirements are our inventory of what our user wants the system to do. So if we risk assess those user requirements, that inventory, we are able now to plan our system implementation accordingly. I put more emphasis on those aspects that the users want that actually have more risk over those that do not. User requirements are the basis for technical planning, designing, coding, and testing of the product. That's what our team members do. They look at the requirements, and based on that, now they develop a system. They are the basis for project management planning. Likewise, as a project lead, what do? You look at those user requirements and you define, oh, this is what is going to be needed in order to implement this system. And they are the basis for verification and validation planning and for product validation. It means that depending on how many requirements I have, what they are, and their risk levels, I am able to assess what type of testing effort I'm going to have in the implementation of that system. The management of user requirements then allow us to identify the criticality of functionalities at the business, regulatory, and safety levels.